Good afternoon, it's Bob Dowling with the Treasure Island Historic Society. Interviews on the Tales of Treasure Island, and this afternoon we're so happy to have Nancy Stubbs, Frederich Stubbs, sharing her tales of Treasure Island and Madeira Beach, and she of course was married to our wonderful past mayor, Walter Stubbs. Nancy, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
And we start out with, we kind of look at how you got here, your family, and how you got here towards the islands and so forth. And if you want to start out about how you got here, that would be terrific.
Okay. Like I told you previously, the first time I ever heard of Treasure Island was my grandmother telling me about my grandfather, probably in the 50s, almost having a heart attack catching a stingray off the old Johns Pass Bridge.
Wow.
So that's how I knew that Treasure Island was here.
And you saw him do that?
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
I just heard
Heard
the
the
story.
story.
Right. I'm sure that almost had a heart attack was exaggerated, but anyway, that's how I first heard about Treasure Island.
So you and your husband moved here from?
Central Illinois. I spent a lot of time here because my father was at Reddington Towers and he was also a commissioner in Reddington Shores. And so we spent as much time as we could here until we had the opportunity to sell some apartment buildings, and so we never went back.
Okay, well, approximately when was that?
I'd say middle 80s.
You moved here in the middle 80s?
I think so,
okay.
yeah.
And you were on Madeira Beach?
Yes, we lived on Madeira Beach, and leading up to that, when I first got here, I think I had the same question that most everybody does when they get here, and that's, why are there so many individual little cities? Why don't they get together?
Consolidation.
Consolidation. Well, as I soon discovered, each of these communities is so different, and it's, especially Treasure Island, is so full of civic organizations and local homeowners and all these different things. And when I moved here, I discovered how many there really were. And it's like a small town. While I was living in Treasure Island, I did something, hurt my back, didn't leave the house for several days. And when I did, people on the street said, "How's your back?" You know, everybody knows everybody, and it's just very, very comforting. So, like I say, they've all got different, unique personalities.
So you and your husband were in real estate primarily in the 80s here?
Yeah, we came down here, and he got his license here, and we got into condo management.
Oh, okay.
And he managed some condos on Treasure Island.
And his name was?
Marvin Frederich.
And then what happened?
Then, like I said, these communities are so tight-knit that we got into politics. It's easy in the small town because everybody knows everybody. You can go to City Hall and rant and rave. And matter of fact, they approached me because I served on a lot of boards, and he was rather upset that they approached him instead of me. But I said, ah. So he decided he's got one more mountain to climb, so he ran for the mayor. And then we really got involved in local politics. And moving on to the Treasure Island input, through Florida League of Cities, Shores and Beaches and so forth, those conventions, we met Walter Stubbs. And the three of us really clicked. And we started hanging around Walter because he always knew where the hospitality rooms were, and he was always in the front row before they opened the doors to the banquet. So, a good man to follow. And while Marvin was mayor of Madeira Beach and Walter was mayor of Treasure Island, Walter wanted Treasure Island to have its own library. And Marvin said that Treasure Island wasn't paying its fair share of the library. And so they had this to do about it. So they had some disagreements about the funding for the library. And the next meeting at the library, there were people there wanting to see the fight. And they walked up and shook hands because they really admired each other. And they both knew that you didn't have to be disagreeable to disagree. And I did some Excel charts to make some pie charts to show that Treasure Island wasn't paying its fair share. And I was, like I said, I was just up to here in politics. And let's see, I guess skipping ahead a bit, Marvin passed away in office, and so I sold my house and I moved to Treasure Island in a condo, not wanting them to know that I had experience managing
Right,
condos.
you had enough of that.
I'd had enough, but I wound up being president of the board anyway.
Oh my gosh.
So it was on Key Capri, your old island that you used to investigate. And so as soon as I moved to Treasure Island, I was at a, they used to have the annual open house at the community center. And so I went over there and I saw Walter, who I'd always admired, and I ran up and gave him a big hug and kiss, and later I thought, why did I do that? I says, now that I live here, I can, work for your campaign, which I was going to do until, he had his heart attack. And see, my other involvement with Treasure Island is I was president of the Art Guild years ago. I may give Donna the opportunity to look through these books before I give them to the county. I was also president of the Women's Chamber of Commerce of the Greater Gulf Beaches, and was formed in 1936. And
You were very active in that.
Oh God, yes. And in 1936, when I always give the lecture, women wore heavy wool clothes, and there was no mosquito control, there was nothing, and these women got out and they got schools, they got buses, they got post offices, mosquito control, beautification, roads, they did so much. But then the last few years, government does it all, so there was nothing for them to do. But an interesting thing is the old Chamber of Commerce building.
Sure.
We had our board meetings there 12 times a year, every month we had a board meeting in the big room.
The Women's Chamber.
Yeah, and we even had a file cabinet in there. And every time we do our fundraising, somebody that we had requested a donation from would call the chamber to ask about us, and they'd say, we have no idea who they are. Which was just like, so we quit paying our dues. So let's see, what else?
Well, let's go back to Walter, and you met him at the open house, and that began a new
era.
budding relationship.
Well, we
perhaps.
always had a mutual thing, even boat parades and everything.
And then you were involved with the theater.
The Island Community Theater, which Mr. Bob Dowling started, yes, and he got me in that, and
But Walter was involved with that.
I got him involved.
Through you.
Yeah, I got him involved.
The next thing we know, you're walking down the aisle again.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was an interesting wedding. We couldn't send invitations because you'd leave somebody out. So we just did an
Y'all
open.
come.
We did an open invitation. I had no idea how many people were going to be there at all. We had it outside, and since we had an open invitation, everybody goes inside. The wedding party's supposed to come in afterwards. We didn't get into almost the end because some little old lady who nobody knew came in and had an accident or something, so they wouldn't let us in. But yeah, it was a very different wedding, really open air. And
And this was at the community center?
yeah, that was at the
As I
community
recall,
center.
yeah.
Yeah, back at the community center. And also before, well, I guess I really got into it once I moved to Treasure Island. I had worked on a campaign for a gentleman running for State House, and those were the early days of email. And so I brought an extra computer to his office, and I'm trying to come up with a tag name, an email name. And I didn't know that you could use one you already had set up before, so I'm just trying to free associate because I didn't want to be John number 234 or something like that. So I just put in mermaid spelled, phonetically, and it stuck. And Jeff Jensen was writing for the Island Reporter, his Ham on Rye, his wonderful column. And every so often I would send him a note, and every so often he'd print one. And then I think he's the one that started. Everybody started calling me the mermaid. So when people say, well, how did you get that name? I said, it's a long story. It's a long
That's the rest of the
story.
story. Good job.
Yeah, that's the rest of that story. And I wound up myself writing for the Island Reporter, for the Beach Beacon, until I was told by the Beacon that she said, I look at my writers like I look at my boyfriends. You can only work for one of us. So I had to drop the Island Reporter, and then I started my own newspaper here. It was such an educational experience. I couldn't have learned any more in a four-year degree in college. And from that, I just got it, used my artistic skills. Like I said, the Art Guild.
What was the name of your paper?
The paper.
The paper.
The
okay.
paper, yeah. I still have old copies of it. It was a lot of fun. And even after I closed it, years later, people would say, oh, remember that article about, you know. So, like I said, it was very, very educational. And I joined the Art Guild to get back into my painting and drawing, but I never did, even though I became the president. So I just turned it all to electronic media, and I paint with pixels now. So, and then doing all the journalism, I just really got back into editing and so forth.
And you're publishing.
And I'm publishing, and I love it. It's very creative, and I love helping people, you know? It's like a friend said, this is America. Everybody has a right to be published. So
about Treasure Island, what part of it did you like the best? Like, say your favorite restaurant or a place to go to?
I used to love to go to, oh gosh, it's been so long now, I forget, Robbie's.
Robbie's Pancake House.
Oh gosh, I ate there so much. I
You did
loved
interview
it.
with Dave.
Oh, I loved it so much. It just broke my heart when they changed it. It was just one of those comfortable places to hang out and to be and so forth. I think with Treasure Island, it's the community. Like I said, it's just so close-knit, and I feel sorry for people who come down here, like when I was at Cape Capri. You go down to the pool and they talk about their health, what they had, where they went and what they had for dinner last night, or the condominium. And I would say, get out of these golden walls and get
so much more.
Oh yes, and some of them did get involved in with some of the beach parties and things like that. But it's just sad and I live in a community now, and it's just sad that people just never go outside and find out where they really live.
Well, I know you did so much for the island, and of course the theater group. You were fabulous. All the programs.
Oh, that
you did,
was so much fun.
We all had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I learned. Remember the street theater? We did street theater, and it was so cold that night. And I was in a scene where we're supposed to be in England, getting ready to go look at. One of my favorite places that I really did see.
Buckingham Palace.
No, the Stonehenge. Okay. And where I'm sitting at a table, it was so cold I had to put a blanket on my legs because I knew I could never get up if it was so cold. And I opened a paper, and I have the opening line, and everybody's standing.
The audience.
And I thought, oh, the actors. And I thought, I can't remember what I'm supposed to say. So I just said, oh, okay, what would my character say, and then it went. But it was just, what a terrible thing, the stage fright, to be so embarrassed like that. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
We did have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It was the camaraderie. It's like you have a party after the play's over because you really don't want it to end, So
how was it living with the man that actually dominated the island and represented us and protected us?
How many years did Walter? How many years was Walter mayor?
He was mayor 20 and I think 6 years commissioner before that.
Long time.
Long time. Yeah, a long time.
He was English.
He was English, and in fact, he moved his company down here from New Jersey because he loved it so much. And that was, in the 50s, I think? And at that time, he brought cameras and everything down to film the area and so forth, to take it back to New Jersey and say, we have to move down here. So, he always loved Treasure Island.
How was it living with him as a person, and did you Did he talk about the issues with you in the evenings, or how did that
No,
work out? How did he separate the?
Well, I think
Because he was a very political creature.
Oh, I know.
As a
I think
human,
what
you know.
happened, because, you know, you had that triple, the valves, like the pig valve.
Well, before that, you know, before he got sick.
Well, I wasn't living with him then. I was just, we were just comrades.
Oh,
And, no, I wasn't living with him till his wife passed.
I'm sorry.
No, his, what happened was he had this big health issue, and I had written an article for a local paper, and everybody was doing the death watch, you know, and I wrote a positive.
Right.
And so one of his constituents got a copy of it, framed it, and we did a presentation to him, which was very, very nice. But when his wife Wanda passed, who he spent a lot of years taking care of, he was a total caretaker for her. And he had a lot of her things to get rid of and didn't, you know, what to do. So somebody suggested that he contact me. Well, he contacted me, and then he wanted to learn how to run the computer. And so I would come over, and I'd be showing him how to do things on the computer, and he'd be playing with my hair.
Oh,
And he says, I guess it's time to go to dinner now.
so that was the budding of
That was the budding of it. That was the budding of the relationship, right? And I can't tell you how many pounds I gained from eating out with him, but
So he
but-
liked to eat out.
yes, he liked fine things.
Yes.
But I think after, you know, like you say, he was so active, I don't think there's a Treasure Island organization they ever missed an important meeting to. He was always the installing officer for the Art Guild, and I had him as installing officer for the Women's Chamber, and the local things, he was just always there. But I think the heart went out. And I tried to get him, you know, active in different things. And so why don't you go to these meetings like you used to, hotel, motel, and so forth. And he just kind of,
Just tired.
he was just tired. And I think, as someone explained it to me once, he, like you say, he was born in Newcastle. His father was a coal miner. And they lived in company housing, which the units that he lived in are still there. They built things to last. But they had an outhouse, you know. His father would come home from the mines, and his mother would have to wash him in this big tub, and they really had a hard, hard life. So they managed to immigrate to this country, and they came here in '29, stock market.
Wow.
Their sponsor passed away. They just,
More hard times.
they're really, really hard time. He spent so many years working at Whizzer Scissors factory, sharpening scissors, that his finger was deformed. And put himself through night school and so forth. Became very successful in business. We went to see, was it the,
What was this business?
he was an engineer with,
Engineer with
yeah,
Honeywell or ECI or something like that?
yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, we went to see the movie The Aviator about, and they're doing the Spruce Goose and so forth. And Walter's sitting there kind of half asleep through the movie, and all of a sudden he says, I worked with that guy. You know?
Howard Hughes.
Yeah, I mean, with the engineers and so forth. That's what he did during the war. And so, I'm talking so fast I'm losing my train of thought. So, where was I going before I sidetracked myself?
We were talking about Walter and coming up hard in England.
Okay, yes.
And I know that he, you know, he was had the strongest handshake of any person I ever shook hands with. And
Gosh, I would have to warn people. Yeah.
And you went up to handshake, and it was like Indian wrestling. He'd pull you right off your feet towards
Exactly.
him. And you never forgot
Always
that power he had in his hand.
But how he felt about being mayor, well, he was still in England as a young boy. He'd see like the mine owner's son driving his Rolls Royce around. So Walter was really a self-made man. And he wanted to achieve that status. And mayors in those towns were, you know,
They
really,
were revered.
really
I saw
revered.
that over there.
So and he was a collector of all these fancy cars. Last car he sold was these Rolls. But he had all kinds of foreign fancy cars, and he restored a 57 T-Bird. And so becoming mayor and taking Treasure Island under his wing, it was like the fulfillment of his self-proclaimed prophecy. And I think when that was gone, he just felt empty.
Yeah.
He didn't feel like he was in a position to do that anymore.
But he did so much for our town.
Oh, I know.
He was the shepherd.
He was, and he did a wonderful job. When I was still married to Marvin, it was in Madeira Beach, and people would say, "Oh, Walter Stubbs is such a dictator," and I'd say, "Well, we all need benevolent dictators."
What happened, you know, after the meeting was closed in City Hall? You know, did he relax at home and that kind of thing?
What-
Or did he
here's how-
pace the floors?
Here's
or
how
what?
dedicated he was when he had that heart episode. He'd been to the doctors for a checkup, and the doctor said, "You need to get to the hospital." He says, "I can't, I've got an important meeting tonight."
And
He
that's-
went to that meeting, and people realized that he was ill.
Sick,
He went home, packed a bag, stood on the bumper of his car, and called 911.
Jeez.
Quite a guy. Quite a guy.
Well, Marvin kind of did the same thing in Madeira Beach. One of the commissioners had to have a bypass. An important meeting was coming up, and Marvin said, "You either get to this meeting or I'm sending an ambulance to pick you up."
Anything else you'd like to tell us, Nancy?
Oh, there probably is, and I'll probably think of a bunch of
You
it
did a
later.
great job.
Anything you want to ask?
How's it working with Steve on his new book?
Well, I'm just waiting to get that first draft so I can start editing. And, working on his book. Okay. One gal said once, it's a wonder they had time to do drugs because they were busy taking pictures. If he's got one picture, she's got 60,000 pictures
Wow.
that he took during this thing. Well, it's the old Kodachrome,
Yeah.
and they all lose that color, and they go, you know. And doing his pictures with Photoshop, I mean, it's just amazing, you know, to restore all those colors, like the pictures in the inside.
Digital.
Oh my, they're just. But what I'm proudest of is the picture on his cover. He wanted to have a boat with a marijuana leaf or something. I said, no, that's
Just a
too
fishing-
obvious,
just a
you know.
fishing boat.
And so I got that one picture of him with there was a blue cowboy hat and these nasty old Levi's, and he's shirtless, and he's coming out of this beach bar, and lighting is just, you know, so underdeveloped. And I did magic on that picture, and I think everybody goes, oh, you know, whatever your orientation is, you like that picture?
Well done.
So I'm really proud of those, yeah. So,
Well, we're excited about the new one coming out. And,
oh yes, me
and,
too.
the movie. And,
Well, he's
and,
had all these, you know,
ups and downs of life.
he's
like,
had this, the bionic man has had, you know, a couple of rough years, but he's back to work now, so.
Well, we thank you so much for coming out and filling us in on some of those things we often wonder about, you know. with,
Okay.
We hope you enjoyed the history and the tales of Treasure Island. There's more to come. We have over 57 hours of the tales of Treasure Island. So as soon as we can get them to you, we will. Thanks for watching Tales of Treasure Island.